like to open up tonight's meeting. The Weddington Planning Board, with the determination of a quorum. We have 3 members here. We'll have 1 on Zoom shortly, so we do have a quorum. Does anybody have opportunity to review the minutes from the November 23rd Planning Board meeting?
I did.
Yes.
Any concerns, questions, changes, additions, deletions?
None for me.
Okay. Need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Need a
Oh, we don't have adopt the agenda on here.
No, you don't have to do it.
Okay.
So you can
And
just,
then, so the approval of minutes from the November 24th special planning board meeting minutes. Anybody chance to review additions, deletions, otherwise changes for the 24th meeting?
what?
Remember saying that.
Just look on your agenda. Oh, I got to print out the old one, I'm sorry.
Do you need a new one?
Yeah, I need a new agenda, I apologize.
You just scared the hell out of me.
I was like, I don't know about that meeting.
No, don't have it.
All right, so we want to make, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. So we want to make a change in the order of our agenda without objection. We're going to put the new business up front for the discussion, consideration, approval, minor subdivision, 202 Walden Lane. Lisa?
Yeah, let me pull it up on the screen real quick. Thank you, Chairman. The applicant, Andrew Pruitt, is seeking a minor subdivision for property located at 202 Walden Lane. This is a total of 6.68 acres. It's zoned R40. The resultant lots are approximately 2 acres and 4.68 acres. Both lots meet the minimum size requirements, minimum front, side, and rear yard setbacks, and are at least 120 feet wide. The proposed minor subdivision is in general conformity with our town zoning and subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Was that somebody from Zoom?
That was somebody playing
Oh, okay.
Facebook.
Did anybody have a chance to review this?
I did. My question was, did this have to be signed before it went off, and it's been taken care of?
Tim?
No questions.
I have no questions.
No questions?
Jim is here now.
And Jim is here.
Jim is
Jim, have you had a chance to review the minor Pruitt subdivision, please?
Did you hear that, Jim?
He's probably muted.
He's mute.
You're muted.
He gave a
said
thumbs up.
Okay. All in favor, or I need a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Unanimous approval? Okay. We had a unanimous approval on that, so this is done. Okay, so we have completed the new business. We can go back to old business, which is discussion and recommendation of Unified Development Ordinance. Lisa?
I think I'm gonna hand this off to Kevin. Kevin, can you hear us?
I sure can. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Everybody can hear me?
Morning.
Well, I'll kick us off here briefly, and for the most part, we'll take direction from you folks over how you want to handle things this evening. What we have in front of you is the entirety of our Unified Development Ordinance project, Articles 1 through 14, as a reminder to everybody. And if there happens to be any folks watching, we've organized this in the same manner as the state statutes. North Carolina General Statute 160D is organized, so we've adopted the state's organizing system. Hopefully that will bring some consistency and ease of use going forward. If the state makes changes, hopefully it'll be easy for us to make changes. You all have reviewed every one of these sections in multiple meetings over the past, I guess, half a year almost now. There were multiple notes, and we made a run of editorial changes to all of the sections. You all have been provided ahead of the meeting red lines showing the changes that were made up against the original items that were presented to you in all the various sections. They, in most cases, are conforming changes. The kind of comments, formatting and that type of thing is a pretty extensive amount of the red lines. There are some substantive changes consistent with our meetings. You all probably saw that Article 9 in particular, as we had discussed in our meeting, was a fairly significant rearrange. So I believe, depending on probably how much you all have been able to digest this big load of papers that we've emailed you over the last couple of weeks, we think we're ready for a recommendation, a positive recommendation from you folks if we're there. Happy to take as much time on any particular sections that you all want to, and try to answer any questions. But I would say generally we've executed y'all's instructions, and I hope you're looking at a final product that is sure reading nice and easy for everybody and consistent with your expectations.
And Gavin, do you want to go over the timetable real quick? If we get a recommendation tonight, I believe we were going to introduce it to the council in March and expecting an April vote. So if you still need time to do any technical revisions or review, you can send it to staff and we'll get those incorporated into those documents.
That's correct. What we were expecting is to, if you all approve and give an affirmative recommendation tonight, we would put it just for information on the council agenda at the March meeting to let them know that the recommendation has taken place. We would have the clean versions posted on the website for basically the entirety of the month of March. So to the extent the public wanted to have, I'll say, significantly more access than you would under a normal, kind of public hearing timetable, right? Mm-hmm. is we'll go ahead and have it out there on the website and just in the public space for a month or so, have the formal public hearing at the April council meeting. And then if folks are comfortable, like I guess I'd like to think folks would be, that it could be approved in that April meeting. And if we get surprised and there seem to be some concerns or topics that we need to chase, obviously we'll do that. So I will say again, as Lisa just mentioned, to the extent I am expecting kind of one more proofread through this with a fresh set of eyes, with a little break from it here over the month, and we do need to assemble the appendix, which is just copies of existing ordinances that we've not changed verbatim. So for sure, if you had, I'll say, small typographical type changes, if anybody felt like they wanted to do that, you certainly could provide those to us during March. But that's our thought on the timetable, with a longer than usual kind of public process around it. It's there's no substantive changes to your residential development standards. There are the changes to the process of it being legislative and getting these decisions earlier in front of you and in front of the elected officials.
We have to advertise in the newspaper for this also.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So I did spend a few hours today going through chapters 8 and 9 and do have a few questions and more clarifications for my own benefit rather than, suggested changes. I don't know if any other board members have specific questions they want to go through and have share my own perception. But I could kind of walk you through what I had.
Sure.
Okay. First comment was on chapter 7, dealing with the downtown overlay district.
Right.
page 5. I was just surprised at the degree of specificity in paragraph C there. We're talking about access to the parcel within the district shall be limited to the existing number of access points that are there today. And I was just saying, if the board changes the land use plan, it changes that downtown overlay district, this sounds like this would require them to then come back and also change the UDO to deal with that change to that overlay. Because the UDO is so specific with regard to the existing overlay. So just raising that as a question for staff and our consultants to look at is, do you want that level of detail in the UDO, or is that something that can be handled elsewhere? And then that same section, just collector road, I'm not sure what the collector road is. Is that a defined road? Is that the railroad extension? Is that some other road? I wasn't sure what that was, and it probably just needs to be defined.
Real quick, you have a transportation plan that shows from where the gym access is.
Yeah, I tried finding that plan online. I have no idea which one I was looking at. I found a lot of plans.
The local area regional transportation plan. It shows access or connector roads from where the gym entrance is, the gymnastics center, and that's going to cut along this property line with the Spittle property all the way over to Matthews Road. So we're trying to have access.
I would suggest that we just may want to define the collector road as shown in and give the reference.
Okay.
Excuse me while I scroll down through all of Kevin's comments to find my comment. I believe that's all I had in section 7. And Article 8. Here's my own while I upload these things.
While he's pulling that up, there's any other changes that you saw, Paul,
No.
Jim?
Yes, we have mine. I had single.
Jim, do you have any other changes while he's pulling that up?
No, I'm good. Excuse me.
In Article, Article 8, major subdivisions, page 3. The way I'm reading them is, the way I'm reading this is that any subdivision, any major subdivision would be required to have an HOA. Is that the intent?
I believe when you're getting into a major subdivision, we're talking about road dedication and open space. We have a 10% minimum open space that would require some entity.
So if there's a requirement for open space or some common ground, then that we have to have that.
That's correct. I think inevitably you're going to have something that's common open space, and something in common that would need to be kept up. So
Yeah, I just had in
that's
mind
yes.
the old subdivisions that exist within Union County that basically have no common ground, but we have that requirement. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a minor change for you on page 5, paragraph B, outside agency involvement. Just a correction, there is no more NC, DNR, or DWQ. They're all umbrellaed under DEQ and NC, DEQ now. Just some minor trivia I happen to know. I've been dealt with those folks. On page 8, dealing with the duration of financial guarantees, I have to admit I was a little confused, with the different kinds of financial instruments and then getting to the duration. I'm assuming all those would start at the end of construction when we're talking about financial guarantees. And with the crossouts and strike throughs, I think they got lost in this edit as to when that period starts. It says it's only going to go for a year, but to me it wasn't clear when it started. So you just may want to look at them. Again, I'm looking at the red line version. trying to read through additions and strike-throughs, and so that was my read on it, that it just wasn't clear as to when that period started.
Currently, you have construction plan approval, you can start the work, you can either start construction, or you can put up a bond and get your final plat approved.
Right.
So we'll clarify.
Just to confirm it, it's going to be upon, the start will be final plat. So Lisa, you and I can check. I want to say that we've got that, but it's a fair comment. I'm writing down. Let's double check. If it was confusing, we ought to see if we can improve that.
Well, if this is, and I was confused again, I was reading through this quickly, and my understanding is there's two levels of guarantee. There's one, the guarantee the infrastructure will be built.
Yes,
And
yes.
then for some instances, I know on the utilities, the county requires a warranty after construction.
Yeah.
So if we're looking for a guarantee that the infrastructure will be built according to plans that were approved and allowing them to move forward with construction, why would we put a time frame as to when it would end prior to the completion of construction?
So municipalities are no longer allowed to accept maintenance bonds. You have your performance bond and your maintenance bond. And there should be language about the performance bond being, I thought we changed it to be forever. The period of time is the time of construction. The town council releases it upon getting the as-built surveys, having the engineer go out and inspect the property. So we'll have to make sure that language is still there. Usually it's typically a one-year term and they renew it with the bank annually.
That was letter of credit, where you were trying to go evergreen on, even though it's your comment, that it's permittable to go with an evergreen letter of
Because
credit.
they actually really said 1 year,
Yeah,
which is not enough.
right. And
You know these projects go on.
And it puts the burden on the municipality then to keep renewing that. If you miss it, you lose it. So, yeah, I would just suggest that staff and our consultant take a look at it, make sure that the timeframes are as intended.
And if I may interject there part of it. And again, I'm going to make a note to double check this, but one of the changes to the state statute was the idea that the duration shall initially be 1 year, and then with kind of an extension element to it, depending on where they are. So what I will back check it. The exercise was to make modifications to comply with the new 160D 804, if I believe I've got the reference right. So, but I'm making a note for sure to double check and to be sure that we've got some, no ambiguity around the timelines.
Okay, thank you.
One
Yes, sir.
question here, back on that, Kevin. So if we miss that timeline, is the liability on the town or the builder? If I understood correctly.
Well, there'll be some work to do, and I said the liability. I mean, the liability won't be on the town, because it won't be ours. But we're trying to look out for really the idea of this is to look out for folks in the neighborhood as it's coming along, right? And
Right.
to actually get it and hopefully have some surety there if the developer, ends up, not finishing the project. So, we would need to have practically, you're going to need to have in place monitoring of your dates and timelines, right? So you can get to the extensions. Like I'm reading from the state statute here that I've pulled up on my other screen is the duration of the performance guarantee shall initially be for 1 year unless the developer determines the scope requires longer. So, the developer, could put in a longer bond, and then extension, if there's good faith progress toward completion that are secured, then goes through this language. If it looks like it's going to expire, the guarantee shall be extended for an additional period of time, only for the duration necessary to complete the required improvements. So there is a practical burden on staff ultimately to keep track of this. You've definitely got the authority to keep the performance bond in place. And the legislature certainly is pro-developer in this, in the sense of, I'll say, the minimum required to secure it and not have them extend for longer periods of time. My educated guess would be that's to avoid kind of the idea of having them double as maintenance bonds or just tying up the the credit capacity of a developer longer than absolutely necessary.
I know personally, I have a chart with the expirations, but I also have some draft bond letter of credit language that I hand to them, so you can fill this out, use our form, and on that form, I have it as ongoing for the kind of construction that it automatically renews. So I haven't had anybody question that so far, so I'm gonna keep using that form and hopefully, when I'm gone, someone else is keeping up with them, because we would not be able to call for a bond if it's expired, and sometimes the town can help out if it's something small to get it, like streets turned over to DOT, but we can't get caught in that situation.
So is the follow-up timeline that you're doing now, so, and I'm just random numbers here, but if the bond expires on June 30th, what is your timeline to follow up to make sure it gets done prior to that number? Is it May 1st, give them 60 days? Or what is the normalcy now?
Yeah. Like the ones I have right now are ongoing, but I would say 2 months. It's a quick call to the bank to get the new updated form. So
Right.
it doesn't take a long time, but I would say 2 to 3 months would be good. Contact them ahead of time.
Yeah, I'd say a minimum of 60 days. I would think that would be a minimum. Banks don't move as quick as they used to. There's a whole lot of issues going on.
Gotcha.
Moving right along. Page 10, just a minor point, and, attribute this to my background. The sentence there is this: the effect of plat approval on dedications that, the town council may, by resolution, accept dedication of land, facilities, streets, parks, or public utility lines. Actually, I don't think the town can accept public utility lines because the town doesn't have a utility. But I think it's a may, it's a provision, just pointing it out. And that's it on 8. Let me find 9. So on 9. The on page 2, dealing with blocks. The way I'm reading this is a block has to be sufficiently deep to allow for back-to-back houses. And the one thing I thought needed to be added in here is what if it backs onto a preserve? I mean, I know in my subdivision, we have a lot of properties that are backing onto preserves or dedicated open space that are single house depth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just one of the exceptions that just came to my mind on this.
Right, with the conservation subdivisions, they're more curvilinear.
Mhm.
Maybe that can be a specific requirement for your traditional versus these are standards for all subdivisions in this first section, I believe. Right, Kevin?
That's right.
Maybe we can talk about making this traditional only.
That sounds right to me, because our drafting decision was trying to organize this with the sections that apply to all subdivisions and then the more detailed conservation residential development obligations. And so, yeah, Lisa, I think the idea would be either that's traditional only, and maybe let's hold that thought. If there happens to be something else that falls in that category, we should clarify that really the conservation standard would, the intent is the conservation standard would trump these standards. And so we need to, that might be worth a back check to see whether, because I'm sure that language was just taken from the existing ordinance. I know I sure didn't think of that as potentially inconsistent, but it's a good point. It is, because in conservation, it would be allowed differently than that.
To me, it's just an odd term and I'm a New York City boy, I know what a block is, but we don't have blocks. Subdivision of streets and everything is curved linear.
Maybe we don't even need that anymore.
I was just going to ask that. Does anybody think that is really not actually accomplishing anything?
I mean, the idea is to load as many houses on a block versus having it run on forever, but
Yeah.
Everything is conditional now. We can make that request at any point.
It sounded like an old hanging on requirement.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of it goes through and explains it, lot dimensions and orientation, all the details are there. You almost don't, you don't need the definition of blocks.
Are we good with deleting that, Dan? I'm continue to be in favor of less is more in these cases if we're stacking up things that don't fit well together.
Well,
I can't think of a reason to keep it.
Jim,
Makes sense.
I think we're all in agreement we can delete blocks.
all right.
I feel like the cul-de-sac makes required, it covers it. You don't have a long
Yeah.
homes.
Lisa, tell me again while you're going down the screen and I'm taking notes. Can I get the section reference on that? Because I'm going to make a list of things that we've said we're going to change here on the fly. This is
Article 9, page 2.
Article 9. What? I just want to get a good. What page is it on the red line? Page 2 of the red line.
Page 2 of the red line. Under paragraph capital A blocks.
Yeah.
Page 3.
917A.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
Page 3 of that same document, we're talking about public roads on the paragraph H. On the subparagraph 2 of that, paragraph 1 says all lot subdivisions that provide herein shall be public roads. Then it goes to exception to public roads frontage requirements shall be as follows, and it starts talking about easement lots created for construction of single family dwelling, and they don't need to be paved, or it's, they give a whole bunch of criteria. And it's under the heading of public roads. So I'm assuming these are still going to be public roads, but who owns these roads or who maintains these roads? I wasn't clear where that fell in the way this was presented.
I'm good with that. So this used to be an easement lot section. You can have one easement lot and it has to be a minimum of 5 acres. So it'd be okay if you have a driveway going back to the backside of a farm, we got another house up front. Does it fit under public roads? That's a good question.
Wouldn't that be a private road
This
at that
is
point?
the exception that it's in the code that it used to have a cross reference to. Now we just stuck it here. Maybe it's just the wrong title.
Because it is a private road, so if it's just by an easement lot, you mean there's an easement on the lot for access.
Right.
So to me, that's privately owned with an easement for people to use it.
Correct.
So it probably doesn't belong on the public road section, because to me, it was confusing. I'm going, well, if it's on the public road section, then who's maintaining this public road? The DOT certainly not going to take it over.
Well, the other thing is we want to be sure to take anything out that might possibly allow somebody to have a non-paved road within their piece and have that as a reference point.
Do
So,
you follow that, Kevin?
I am a point of commentary. This, I believe, is verbatim out of the existing ordinance. I don't think this was our new handiwork, right? Is the idea here is, and maybe that the title is throwing us off here a little bit, because so the number one, H1 is the idea that generally all new lots have to front on a public street. And the exception is to the frontage requirement, which is, hey, except we'll give you these easement lots in some limited circumstances. So I think what's maybe confusing this is the title, right? If H had said, lots to abut public roads at an exception, we may not have had that question. And I kind of like the idea of keeping the exception right next to the rule of abutting the public streets. But Lisa, could you scroll down and see what comes with it in this section? Because maybe relabeling H would
Access
be.
to public roads.
Let's scroll down and see what else is in the section.
So why don't we change the title to H? That is the title's misleading. Okay.
Okay, how do you want to refer that to then?
Lots to abut public roads.
To abut public roads?
Is that what you said, Kevin?
Yeah. And I feel like that's what the title needs to be.
I agree with that.
Comments, concerns, questions? You okay with that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
I think the last comment I have, but I defer to, on page 5 and a number of places in page 5, laying out different requirements, this one for cul-de-sacs and then street layout. The term that's thrown in there in a couple of places is cul-de-sacs shall generally be designed with this criteria, and cul-de-sacs less than 600 feet shall generally be designed to do this. And to me, generally be designed is not a very enforceable action. It speaks to intent, but it doesn't speak to requirement. I just want to make sure that was the intent here, that we're speaking to preferences of the town and not requirements of the town.
Yeah, I feel like 3 and 4 were added when we had Randall Arndt here, and we're trying to kind of paint the picture of what these RSDD conservation subdivisions, and instead of looking out at a cul-de-sac, we want them to be planted. And when you have these smaller subdivisions and the lots are closer, you want a focal point, or so I get your point.
Yeah,
That's why they were trying to kind of paint a picture.
I think that,
And I don't know if DOT, I don't think at the time we knew if DOT would accept the way this language was.
I think some of the terminology that we had, especially when Randall was here, was the ability to be a little bit more flexible. And the intent was to not be as rigid. And normally our intent is to be rigid, there's no question about that. But I think in this particular concept, because it was going to be a, lack of better terms, on-the-fly design, during the charrette process and all that to come through, then you kind of reorient that once we've had consultation with the planning board, the council, residents during the charrette design process. I think that was where we had that intent. So personally, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I certainly agree with what your concept is. I don't disagree with that at all. But I think the intent was to be a little bit more flexible in that, I guess, is the best term from here at the moment. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And I'm fine with the way it is. I was just pointing out that that's how I was reading it, if that was the intent.
My point of view, right?
I think that's exactly what was been read, yeah.
Page 6, I do have more comments. Connection to public water lines. Of course, just a minor editorial change. The county's water and sewer extension policy is actually an ordinance now. They incorporated an ordinance, I think, in 2014.
Okay.
But a question more, I don't think for this activity, but maybe for the board workshop, is there is no corresponding section dealing with connection to existing sewer systems. And I think there's a workshop agenda item for the board on Friday to talk about sewer systems, so that may be an opportunity for them to talk about that.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
On page 6, on R, on open space, in the traditional residential development, you're required to have a minimum of 10%. Do we want to have that as set up as an HOA setup as well? I guess if we talked about that a little bit earlier, versus conservation areas, a conservation area is not open space. And
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a differential in that.
Yeah, we made sure those definitions stuck between conservation and open space. And they would be required to turn in a maintenance plan and maintenance agreement.
Yep.
And HOAs, there's another section that requires those documents to be reviewed.
Okay.
Jumping,
I'm sorry.
jumping all the way ahead to page 22,
Hey.
dealing with schools. There's a whole section K in there about land use for schools and it's all written perspective. It's not written as here's what we're going to do. It's here's what the school board would like communities to adopt. So are we adopting this as our ordinance, or are we just stating in our ordinance that the school board would like us to do this sometime?
It's in there now, it's in our ordinance, and it reads, it's a copy and paste, so it reads like that now. I know at the time, the school boards went to all municipalities, wanted them to adopt the same language, you read the reasoning why. I don't think, because it's in there, I don't think the reasoning needs to be in there anymore. If everyone's okay with striking that, I don't see a problem with that. Kevin?
At the end of the day, do we have any standing anyway?
Sure.
I think they have, I think
Yeah.
school boards need to go local zoning.
So given that I actually do some work for the 3 school districts around here in Union, Mecklenburg, and Gaston, so you do have standing. That's I'm sure that's why this went through. I mean, they do have to comply with local zoning.
Okay.
And so practically, as Lisa said, this is a cut and paste out of the way it is. I guess I would be, I didn't really think to look behind what was already there on this. And then I suppose the way it's set up right now, if, Lisa, remind me on the permitted use table on this, right? That the way this practically would need to work now is if it's in a RCD, they're going to have to come through the CZ zoning process, and these would become the standards you would look at as kind of the ingredients, right? I'm looking back to the permitted use table, like, and where it's already zoned correctly, this would, they may not have to go through that. I'm looking.
What page did you say, Ed?
It is page 22 of the red line version, paragraph K, schools. And it's really the last sentence of that introductory paragraph where, it reads, the staff-run public schools, Union County and local municipalities met and agreed to make recommendations to their boards as follows.
Yeah.
So it's written as here's recommendations, not here's what we're adopting. So if we're adopting it, just thinking you change the sentence, say, these are now, this is our code.
It's in there. It's like,
Mhm.
Maybe we should just delete that sentence.
for sure.
Well, if that's what consensus, let me write that down. Is what section have we moved to now? Delete
Okay.
the
Section K, that was
K schools. The
the intro paragraph.
yeah. Very good.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Lisa, where do we stand? Do we want to have a review of the review, or do we want to have a conditional approval?
We are looking for a recommendation for approval with the changes we noted tonight. And anything else you guys want to add?
Well,
I think we should send it to town council with some of the changes, or with the changes that we've been discussing.
Jim?
I'm happy with it.
I agree.
I agree. I don't think we need to see it again. I think we can count on staff and consultant to make those changes as appropriate for you to the board
Jim?
and town council.
I'm with, yeah.
Okay.
That's the case. Need a motion?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in unanimous vote to send that to council with a vote of recommendation with changes as noted.
Thank you all very much. I've enjoyed working with you on this. It's been a good process. Appreciate you.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, y'all take care. Yep.
All right. Look to item number 6 in our agenda. Update from town planner report from January, February council meetings.
Thank you. Our town council retreat will be this Friday. Usually you guys are invited, but we're at limited capacity. We're at Rolling Hills Country Club and they have a limitation of 10 persons. So we do plan on Zooming the planning discussion, which will probably be 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll send you guys, send you guys the Zoom link and a definite time if you guys want to listen in. There's 2 rezonings, one through Indian Trail and one at Newtown and Providence. Going through at the county, the council adopted resolution opposing both of those. They did appoint 2 new planning board members. I'd like to welcome Travis Manning and Manish Mittal. They will be joining us in March. And with that, I would like to thank Brad Perlman for his years of service. Brad was appointed in 2015 and has served this town for over 5.5 years. And you all know this can be a thankless job. And I wanted to say thank you for your time, your candor, and everything you've done for Weddington. We do have a parting gift for your token of your appreciation on its way. And we'll get that to you as soon as we can. But thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. Well,
Thomas, I think we did a good job on this UDO stuff.
Jim,
I'm good. A lot of work on the UDO.
Jim,
Okay.
yeah. How do we put the new board members to work with an equivalent project? Now, I'm sure something will come up. We can look at something for them. And I just wanted a second comment on Brad. It's been a pleasure working with you last year. You run a tight meeting.
Very proficient.
And you keep us on track. And, it was good working with you. I appreciate those comments. Yeah, I don't like idle meetings a whole lot. I think everybody's time is very valuable. I think that if people come prepared and it doesn't take 6 hours to get something done, it should take 30 minutes. And so I appreciate y'all's patience with that. I have enjoyed my time on the board. It is a thankless job at times, but it's a necessary job. And I was very fortunate to have some good people in front of me to do that. So I did prepare a little statement here. Served on the planning board for 6 years, 5.5 years. Appreciate the former council members for appointing me to the board. I also appreciate the former planning board members for helping me better understand what roles the planning board provides and how best to fulfill those roles. I want to thank the current board for letting me chair to this board and attempt to guide it to best serve the residents of the town of Weddington. This board serves the residents of the town. Its members serve the term and are either appointed or renewed when a member is selected to bring their perspectives to, again, serve the town residents. In order to best serve the town, it's important to know what it is that a planning board does. I encourage each of the existing and new members to read the ordinances that cover the planning board. Read General Statutes 160A-361, 153A-321. I encourage the members to read the Town of Weddington articles that cover the planning board, specifically Article 2 that covers the objective and the purpose. 2-2B states that the board should determine the objectives to be sought in the development of the area under study. 2-2H further requires, quote, to keep the town council and the general public informed and advised of these matters. At the January 11th meeting of the town council, several members of the council
and the mayor took exception as to the manner in which I went about fulfilling my responsibilities as chair and running the meeting. And the line of questions that I asked, it was said by several members that they were embarrassed. It was said by the mayor that I had overstepped my authority by hushing colleagues and undermining the town planner by questioning the review process. One planning board member stated in a council meeting that I had an improper line of questioning and monopolized the meeting. Let me be clear and direct with no room for misunderstanding. I'm not embarrassed for anything I said or anything I did at any point in serving as a member of this board, especially with respect to the December 21st meeting. Although the agenda refers to discussion and recommendation, the applicant and the town administrator wish to change this and not ask for discussion and a recommendation. The applicant stated at least twice in his proposal they were making changes. How can we vote on something the applicant himself is reworking? I asked the town administrator, what is our goal of tonight's meeting? The board was asked to provide a list of questions and issues so the applicant could go back and further revise their application. The hope is that once these questions were answered, a recommendation for the project could be given. I should have required the agenda to be changed to reflect this. I did not, and the meeting proceeded. This meeting was conducted in the same order as all previous meetings I chaired. Once the applicant and the town administrator completed their presentations, questions were asked by individual members. Midway through the first question, I asked if we could address any questions with respect to text amendments in one section and come back to any questions with respect to the conditional zoning application. It was in an effort to consolidate the questions as to who needed to address them. Each member had as much time as they wanted within this context. As an aside, on Saturday, December 19th, I emailed each member to implore them to go through the packet thoroughly. I advised that the material was significant and this project would require lots of changes to current zoning if it was to be approved. When the members completed their questions, I as chair asked mine. This process was repeated for the conditional zoning application. Once I completed my questions, the board was again asked if they had anything else to address. This was done for both the text amendment and a conditional zoning application. I was interrupted when I asked about a local school involvement from a phone call with the mayor. This was a question the mayor wanted answered. The member was out of order. I continued to request a reply from the applicant. No improper questions were asked. The complaints about not being able to ask questions and monopolizing the meeting are false. Any assertion otherwise is simply without merit. Mayor Callis stated in January 11th town council meeting that I undermined the town planner and the applicant. Again, Article 2 requires the planning board to determine objectives to be sought in the development of the areas of study. I had significant questions regarding the Roots Farm project. I emailed these questions for clarity to Mayor Callis, town administrator, and the town attorney. This was emailed on December 19th or 20th. As of today, February 22nd, 2021, some 65 days after the request, most of those questions still do not have a reply. The questions were in reference to definition of agritourism. When does primarily devoted occur? How is it measured? How would the planning board know if this project meets the standard without this answer? Applicant requested renewable energy with the term without limitation. The term without limitation only serves the interest of the applicant and in no manner provides protection to the town of Weddington. Changing in how usable land is calculated, plus other significant issues. No response from the attorney, nor mayor, nor town administrator was given prior to the planning board meeting where, according to the agenda, we were scheduled to give a vote to recommend or not recommend this project. Only when asked in the meeting did some of those questions get answered. Further, and possibly the most egregious problem I found with this project was design that meets 12 USCS 1715Z-22A, the classification of multifamily housing. The very thing this town has fought so hard to prevent in the past was actually being pushed. Was I undermining the town administrator or fulfilling my responsibilities as a planning board member to determine objectives sought? Either way, I make no apologies for bringing this to the attention of the town residents, the planning board, and the town council. A follow-up email from the town administrator the next day following the December planning board meeting confirmed that, quote, it will probably tax this multifamily, including a tax on each house, tax on rental income, and the land where the homes are located may be taxed at a commercial rate. These are not the only issues for the project has, but I wish not to relitigate this project. Per the mayor's statement and the statements of town council members Probst, Pearman, and Pruitt, they were embarrassed. Rightfully so, but for the wrong reasons. They should be embarrassed for letting this application get as far as it did in the condition it did. Further, they should be embarrassed for not knowing exactly what the ramifications would be if this application was allowed to go through as applied for. A major change of zoning like this should be put before the residents. The mayor took exceptions to my questioning in the timing of application events. I make no apologies for asking questions of this application and the process that it took. I will not be a part of the planning board that begins this work in March. I assume those who appoint the new members did not appreciate the strong representation of the residents of the town and its current zoning policies and did not reappoint me. My request is that the new board will not make assumptions as to what is being presented and actually look at the details of what is being presented. I trust they will not confuse what is being said for what is actually being written into the application or ordinance. For example, at the PIM, a representative of Roots Farm said a resident called him a liar. I spoke to the resident. I do not believe that the resident called the representative a liar. The conversation between the representative and the resident was in reference to the application showing one restaurant or two. The applicant's rep said it was one and the resident said it was two. During the December 22nd planning board meeting, I asked a question about how many restaurants would be there. In the planning board meeting, the attorney for Roots Farm advised that there would be 2 restaurants. The resident was correct, and the Roots Farm rep was the one who was providing incorrect information. If I had assumed that the applicant's representative was telling the truth, had I not found other sources for the information, I would have not known that the project was as designed would be a multifamily project. It is never undermining staff to ask questions and demand the correct answer. In fact, to do otherwise would be to avoid your responsibility as a representative of the residents of the town of Weddington. Again, thank you to this board for the work you do. Thank you to town staff for the support of this board. Sincerely, Brad Rogan. If no other comments or questions, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.